Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode. Fuck me. This is great. It's like I'm coming out of a birthing canal right now. It's like when you're doing things like this, you think you look really cool, but I really just look like a grown man baby coming out of a birthing canal, you know? Like way too much crowning. Hopefully the audio is good. Let's get a timer going. Por ti volaré, espera que llegaré. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to today's special episode. Episode 113, I believe. No, 213. Where's the time gone? Today we are doing a special episode. We had to switch things up, okay? I always have these things on my bucket list, wanting to do this different every now and then. And this is one of them. Just in my mind, look at these lights. This is a real set for you guys, okay? Am I in my garage? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe I'm in Jeff Bezos' basement filming this shit, trying to push the agenda, okay? 2-day free shipping. Doesn't even make sense, ladies and gentlemen. But when you have to make sense, when you're making sense, cha-ching! We don't have my soundboard today to rely on, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, we are here in my garage, in my portable sauna, okay? Your boy is hood rich. And what that means is I got fancy stuff, but just the fancy wish.com version of it. Do I have a home sauna? Yeah, I could get away saying that. I could be like, yeah, I got a home sauna. But what I really got is a tent that has a little tube hooked up to it that heats up steam and pushes it through, makes me all sweaty, makes my willy tingle. I could just be touching my willy right now. You wouldn't know. Matter of fact, my hands are resting on my balls, ladies and gentlemen. It's just what I do, okay? I'm just like a little kid playing with his pecker when he's nervous. Keep up, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, enough of this weird riffing that I'm doing right now, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Thursday. Thirsty Thursdays. It's actually fitting because when I'm in the sauna, I get real thirsty, okay? Why? I'm sweating out all the toxins. And I wanted to do this episode in the sauna because probably a few years ago, it's been now, I would go in the sauna about 4 or 5 times a week. I've always gone in the sauna. It's probably been about 10 years of going in the sauna regularly, 4 or 5 times a week. On slow weeks, 3 times. And so much so that when the the pandemic, I ended up buying one of these saunas to be able to still go in the sauna because it feels so good just to sweat. And it's really beneficial for you. This is one of like the cheapest solutions you can get to really help your immune system, help your metabolism, help detoxify. You hear that word a lot thrown out by people about, detoxing. And the sauna is actually something that makes a huge difference in your life with recovery, rest, and relaxation. There's something that you realize as you start to get older is that there's more stress involved. There's more stress involved in everything. And it's like you have to actively find ways to constantly take a little bit of steam off your pressure cooker, you know? That's what I think life is. When people always, like when I was young and I would always hear people say, if they could wish for anything, what would it be? It would be to be happy. And I always thought that was a weird, like it made sense when I was a kid, but then it doesn't necessarily make sense when you're an adult because you know like that being happy isn't a constant state. It's more of like you almost need sadness to be happy, if that makes sense, because you need to appreciate life and to understand it. You need to have a reference and a perspective for it. And that was something that life gave me. And I wouldn't, like, you can't really wish for happiness because it's not in reality. But what you can wish for is fulfillment and balance. And that's something that I'm starting to realize, like recovery and rest and hashtag me time, hashtag treat yourself, what that means to me. And that is what I think the sauna is for people. A great investment that you can have is investing in that recovery and your longevity. And it makes you feel better. There's always this idea of no rest days and no, you work out, you push it, you grind. It's like the grind culture that a lot of people push on people. But you don't need to be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. It's like you want that quality or you want that quantity. I find out that, especially with my job, with doing videos and being creative in general, and even doing stand-up, is there's a consistency that's needed for it, but there's also a balance that's needed for it. You talk to a lot of really good stand-up comedians, and they talk about an important part of the job is experiencing life and actually living life so you have reference. And as someone who does videos and can get caught into a grinding schedule, there's a certain point where there's diminishing return on your work. And that's something that I experienced, where it's like if I go on these benders, if you will, of editing and working and everything, and I'm just constantly go trying to grind it out, I get overwhelmed. I'll get like anxiety, but more of like not like anxiety in the sense of like panicky, which that can happen, but it's more of just like I get into a frazzled state where things will set me off easier, where I'm more just like jumpy almost. And it's because I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed. And there's no bitchness in that. Sometimes when people, especially guys, there's like this idea that if you admit you're overwhelmed or stressed out, that it's a sign of weakness. And I think that's what fucked me up for years, was not accepting that idea and that mindset. But it comes down to being smart. There's always the idea, do you want to be tough or do you want to be smart? Because the smart people last. They find better ways to do things. And they're not ego driven, where you feel like you need to put in a 12-hour day of grinding to, feel satisfied at the end of the day. That's just you trying to convince your ego that you need to be exhausted for it to be a satisfying day. And that's why I'm telling you right now, sorry, we're going to also take drinks. Oh boy, we just broke the sauna. Drinks of water and patting ourselves down. But one thing that we do in here a lot, sorry, this is missing a piece so it will fall down regularly, is I do these breathing exercises in here, which I'm not going to do it now because it's on camera. And that would just be weird for you guys to listen to. But I can make a video with that, but basically I do follow along with Wim Hoff. And what it does is it does a few things for me. It's usually a 10-minute routine. I'm usually in here for 30 minutes. That's what I'm going to shoot for today. Watch it be the time that I can't last for 30 minutes. Giggity. But I do the Wim Hof technique of breathing. And what it does is I like to, it's 3 rounds. You do 30 breaths going. I go in through my nose really hard and out through my mouth really hard. So I just go. And I do that for 30 breaths. And then what it does is it over-oxygenates your body. And then you breathe out. And it makes you breathe out, and you breathe out for 15 seconds. No, sorry. You breathe out on the last one, and you hold that for a minute on the first round. And you feel like you're gonna not be able to breathe, but you have so much oxygen and it's going through your body that you can last. Giggity. And then on the second, and then you breathe in deep for 15 seconds. Like you breathe in one big gulp, hold it, and then you breathe out, and then you repeat that 2 more times. But then the holding period on the second 2 rounds are 1:30. And what that does for me, there's a lot of benefits. And if you haven't seen the Wim Hoff documentaries and just videos on him on YouTube, it raises your immune system. It helps with circulation. It helps your metabolism. It relaxes you. It de-stresses and basically only has benefits. But the number one thing that it does for me is it resets my mind. I'm someone who I'm trying to get better at concentrated work and efficient work and just being not so taken all over the place in different directions with everything. From when I start working, if you don't know, my schedule usually waking up is I wake up, I drink coffee, I have my glutamine in a cup, and I also put a scoop of lysine in there. It's really good for skin and it's good for your hair and nails. So I do a scoop of that as well in water. And I drink basically a mason jar full of water. You're gonna see me move around in here a lot is because the steam is actually really hot on my back or on my butt, depending on where it's situated. So yeah, if I'm looking uncomfortable, it's because my back is on fire right now. But I have that in the morning. I do an entire mason jar of water and I do a coffee, and then I get my journal and I read a chapter of whatever book I'm reading. Right now, I'm rereading for the third time, Atomic Habits. Yeah, I just decided to flex on you saying the third time, just to let you know I've gotten down on it before. And to be honest, the third time through, kind of boring. I'm like, okay, I kind of know this. And the first few chapters are the best. And Atomic Habits is basically just about optimizing your schedule and stuff like that. But that's my routine. So wake up, coffee, water, journal, read, and then I do usually a 10 to 15 minute follow along stretch because your boy's old. And I do all of this before ever taking my phone out of its drawer. Because I have in the studio a drawer that I've carved out the back, and it's basically a charging station in the drawer. Where I can just put all batteries for camera stuff and phone, everything, cables is all inside this drawer, so I don't touch it until I'm done with my stretching. So what that does is it gives me my mornings, because I'm someone who before I would always wake up and I would just go straight to my phone, and it'd be either on the nightstand, laying in the bed with me, and it would be the first thing I see is I would go to social media, I'd be texting. And you get all this stimulation. It does a couple things. I think it makes it harder for you to get out of bed, and it just depletes your dopamine, like seeing all the social media and everything. And then you start your day off. I feel like you're in less motivated state because you just spent the first half hour, 45 minutes just laying there on your phone. And granted, maybe you woke up slower and it was better and relaxing, but I feel like it's just not healthy and not the best utilization. You're from the fam, yep. Utilization of your time. So that's why I do it that way. And then I start the grind, brother. I usually have emails from clients, any kind of business stuff for my merch, if I got to deal with customers, and then I start doing that. Ideally, if I don't have fires to put out, I'll do 30 minutes of writing stand-up. It'll be 30 minutes of writing and then usually followed by 30 minutes of performing, where I'll actually rehearse stuff, think about delivery, and go over stuff like that. So that will give me an hour. But sometimes I don't get that luxury, and it puts me into a stressed out state where if something happened with a client or I need to do this or that, I start going down that rabbit hole, and then I lose an hour and a half, and then I'm behind, and then I haven't even worked out yet. I haven't done the sauna. So it's I start doing all these things that take away from that. And the benefit and the whole point of me saying that is that I'm someone who's constantly easily distracted. It's just who I am. I'm very easily distracted. And that's a constant battle, is trying to take control of my mornings, making sure I'm eliminating chances for me to get distracted. That's why even doing the sauna and everything, I use that usually as a moment to clear my head. And getting back to it, the whole reason I brought up my entire schedule and me getting easily distracted, when I do the Wim Hof technique, Usually I have a hard time focusing on the numbers, and I have those impulses to want to check my phone. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we had a technical difficulty. I apologize. The SD card ran out of space. So unprofessional here. But where was I? Oh yeah, Wim Hof. Basically, I would get distracted, and I have a hard time focusing on the breaths on that first round and getting myself to like calm down and just focus, fighting the urge to check my phone and just do other things and focus on other things. And after that first round of just forcing myself to like focus on just the breath and being present and when I'm holding my breath, by the time the next round comes around, I'm more focused, I'm here, I don't really have the urge to grab my phone or check it. And by that third time, I'm like completely dialed in on the moment. And I'm just here breathing in and out and only focused on my body and what it's doing. And I would say like the perfect metaphor to describe that would be like tuning a guitar. It's like out of tune, and you're like bing, 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 and trying to get it to sound good. By doing those breaths, it gets you more in tune with being in the present and like being there. And then you just feel a calmness from like the breath, So that's like the benefits that I get from it. So that's why I suggest doing the sauna when you can, and combining it with like Wim Hof breathing techniques. I've always thought about making my own because his is like a cool follow along one. But I think it would be cool to add music to it and turn it into like a relaxation thing. And I've always thought of like producing my own video like that, with crediting him, because he does breathing in through your mouth and out through your mouth. But the way that I did it is I've combined like 3 different things where I do the Wim Hof, I do this other breathing method, which is in through your nose, out through your mouth. I forget what it activates. And then utilizing the sauna as well. So I'm like a product of Dr. Rhonda Patrick, Wim Hof, and whoever else did the other breathing technique. I want to say it was like Greenfield or something like that. But anywho, there's right now what's crazy is I'm not stuck at home, but right now in Texas, if you remember, Texas had the winter storm. It was like once in 100-year storm that went down in Texas last year in February. And here we are again a year later, and right now I'm getting phone calls from the city of Kyle. Kind of like I live outside of Austin. And I'm getting phone calls that there's going to be a winter storm to stay home. Business stuff has kind of been canceled. There's stores everywhere is closing tomorrow because there's supposed to be a legit winter storm coming to Texas. And it doesn't seem like it's going to be nearly as bad as the storm that happened last year. I'm not as worried about it. I think Texas is more prepared for it. What it seems like is the reason why the grid almost failed and there were so many outages is because the way that Texas does their electricity. They almost do like an, sorry, I'm dying. I apologize. They almost do like an open source bid where different companies can bid on electricity at certain rates, and then they profit off the distribution of that electricity, from what I understand. So it didn't necessarily have to do with an actual failure of the grid. It happened to be an underpurchase of overvalued electricity during a storm. Which is kind of crazy because, the power out here, they charge extra for storms. There's like a surcharge. If you're using your electricity at a certain time, they're going to charge more for it. And the answer is kind of trying to go off the grid. I actually had someone come out pretty recently to look at putting solar on the house. And I just, the salesman was pretty pushy and it was a weird situation and it didn't necessarily make sense to me. You basically end up paying, at least the way from what I understand, is you're paying basically for the solar units, but You're just replacing your bill and paying it to the solar company rather than paying an electricity bill. And if you go over what you're paying the solar for, you use more than what you're quoted at, you're just going to end up paying the electricity on top of that. So it's either you pay less now and store money and credits for when you use the electricity more, or you just pay it as you go with the electricity company. So I was like, okay, this is not necessarily a win-win situation unless you pay off the units and then you're just not paying electricity, which is the way I would want to do it. And so maybe in the next house, in like 5-10 years, like 5 years, I think, installing solar so you just don't have a bill and just paying a decent price. And I feel like in 5 years, the technology will get better for it. But it's crazy, man. Everything's shutting down, like regular stores and businesses and hotels. And they're so worried about this winter storm. And from talking to people around here who were here when it happened, it does seem scary because Texans, and I love Texas. I'm a proud honorary Texan, whenever they allow me. I think the rule is you have to be invited to be a Texan by an actual Texan who's been here, like multi-generational. Because there's like fucking Californians here who identify as Texans now after like 5 years. And I'm like, well, who swore you in? Like I feel like only Chuck Norris, Terry Black, the real legendary Texans. And you might be like, Chuck Norris isn't from Texas. You're like, yeah, but he was the Texas Ranger and brought more eyeballs on Texas in the media, But, I think you have to be sworn in by an actual generational Texan, And when people move to Austin and they're like, we're Austinites. And you're like, no, you're dumb, ugh. But part of the reason I think that why the storm got so crazy was because Texans, for one, the power going out, and the other is that Texans don't know how to drive in snow. And they're not, the infrastructure, you probably heard that so many times, the infrastructure, that's like words you never really heard before something like this happened was infrastructure, coronavirus, pandemic, quarantine. You start hearing these words thrown around that just become regular things, like infrastructure. I feel like people use that word so much about Texas in the storm. But the roads aren't set up for snow. They're not expecting it. They don't salt the streets and all the stuff that, Massachusetts and these Midwest places that deal with a lot of snow kind of deal with in the East Coast. They're prepared. They know how to dress for it. They know how to drive for it. And that's the dangerous thing that I think about is I was supposed to go into Texas for a business meeting that starts at 7 a.m. And then I look at the snow advisory and it's like, oh, there's going to be under 30 snow starting at 5 a.m. here tomorrow and won't end until I think noon or something. And I'm like, no, fuckface, I'm not going to drive in that. And it's not like I'm worried about me sliding and everything because I can drive in snow. I've done it. Probably more than an average Texan, but it's other drivers that I'm worried about. Because I'll be honest with you, there are a lot of cars with dents in them in Texas, a lot of cracked windshields. And it seems like Texas, they love that liberty where they're just like, you know what? Yeah, I will fucking hit your car because that's my right as an American. Texas loves that liberty, This is the greatest state in the nation. I'll say it, okay? From a business sense, from a life sense, liberty and personal rights, I love it, okay? As long as you use condoms, okay? Because Texas is real liberal when it comes to who gets liberty around here. You can't, you pay for your mistakes around here. No abortions, that's nuts. Getting way too liberal with that liberty. The baby hasn't even showed up yet. And they're like, hey there, little feller, welcome. Here's a Buc-ee's shirt, I don't really know what the answer is. Those are weird ones when you start looking at abortion laws and everything. I did find that one weird, where I was like, hey, just let people get abortions. That's kind of a weird thing to try to implement. But the trade-offs of the liberty that you still get here, I think, are still better than other places, and I think that, law should be repealed. I'm not saying it's a good thing. But the liberty and the quality of life that you can have here is amazing. That's why I think Texas is such a great state, and Austin is actually such a great city. And it's a prime example of what balance is. You know, going all the way back to the beginning of this, is that a Republican state with a liberal city can be a nice balance. Okay, you look at somewhere like LA, where it's just like, oh no, we're way too far to the left, and now it's turning into like draconian laws. Hey, shout out to me for using big words this episode, which I think are just crazy. Like, it's way too controlled. And then if you go too far right, you start getting into weird areas. And I find myself in the middle. You know, I'm socially liberal, conservative, financially, and I like taking problems. That's what's stupid, is that everybody's playing this actual game, that there is only a left and a right, and then there's a middle. But it's like, no, you can be on both sides in different areas. It's called just using logic. If we're gonna have every question fall under these two political umbrellas, then it would only make sense to be on both sides, right? Because I think, this is just off the top of my head, I feel like socially liberal ideas make the greatest art. They make the greatest creativity, and they're more open-minded. And I think fiscally, you know, Republican or, you know, more conservative makes decisions. Sorry, that was my timer. We're already like at the 30-minute mark. And I think conservative, fiscally, and financial decisions makes environments so those liberal arts and creative ideas have a place to flourish. That's why I think with combining them is so great. You have Texas laws, which are amazing for business, and the incentive to move here for all these Fortune 500 companies is amazing. And I think there's only a liberal idea and open-mindedness enough because of Austin to be able to make it work, to have the benefits of being in a liberal society with having fiscal financial decisions being made. And I think that's what makes Austin work, at least for now. I do believe, you know, we can go forward in 5 to 10 years and we're going to see if the infrastructure could handle this much growth at a rapid, a rapid pace. There's so much being built. There's so many people moving here. And what's great though, is there's so much expansion on the outside of Austin. You know, I'm someone who's like 30 minutes outside of Austin, and I love it. There's plenty of space for now, but there's also room for expansion. You get to a place like Los Angeles, well, straight off the bat, it's pushed up against an ocean, so there's no growth there. Then it's pushed up against Burbank, and then it's pushed up against, what is that city in between Thousand Oaks and LA? But anyway, it's built out on all sides, and there's not much room to grow. So what happens is people just keep trying to condense in rather than growing outside. So I think in that idea, Austin has, and the same thing for San Francisco. That was another metropolitan area during the dot-com era and, Silicon Valley, but there's such limited space, and I think it comes down to that. And you mix that with a democratic state and very liberal political, social, financial laws that don't make it good for a business to flourish. So it sends a lot of the capitalism to other, Republican states. It just so happens that Texas has a phenomenal city in Austin that is forward-thinking and open-minded and liberal enough to have that kind of growth. So that's why I'm happy. I'm excited for the future here in Austin. I think it's going to be in the next 5 years complete boom in the sense of a lot of things, a lot of creativity, more video stuff, more arts, more filming, more opportunities, and for comedy. I think there's a comedy boom going on here right now that is phenomenal. People are hungry. It's making the whole level of comedy rise, and I think it's great. So yeah, I think we've gone over our time. Your boy, my heart is racing right now from the heat, as you can tell. I think I got like this emo hairstyle going on, and yeah, we're very sweaty, very hot. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you enjoyed it, let me know, and we'll do more episodes like this and try switching up the podcast more, okay? I look like a baby being born right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Remember, no matter what, I still love you.